So I've been reflecting a lot this week on self-inquiry and why it is that that method seems to work for people when it comes to awakening. And one way you could think about it is reality itself is made of an unconditional openness. That is the source, the ground of everything. It is everything. At least that's how it feels after awakening. And the mind has multiple aspects to it: thoughts, interpretation, ideas, that whole way of framing the contents of experience. That represents a kind of closing down, or an apparent closeness, a partitioning of experience. Whereas awareness and curiosity are aspects of the mind that are to do with openness. So when we become curious about the contents of experience, we are inherently opening up and we're moving the mind into a state of not knowing, not already having the answers, but being curious. And so by allowing the mind to be open, it can align with the openness of reality, and an unhooking can occur from being identified with thoughts, with ideas, with the contents of the mind, with interpretations, of which the self is one. So we could do a quick guided self-inquiry practice aimed at orienting to this openness. You could say this is another version of experiential opening, but based around self-inquiry, because always we're opening to experience, whether it's in pursuing a first awakening or integrating that awakening to become more whole. So no need to get into any special state, no need to settle the mind. We can just bring in a question and look for the one who is asking the question. So in your mind, say, who am I? Who am I? Hear the thought clearly and look for the one who is saying those words, the one who is thinking that thought. Let the system be relaxed and open and curious. And then when other thoughts arise, if there's a sensation of feeling like the thinker of those thoughts, if the thoughts don't feel entirely impersonal, but they feel like your thoughts, just keep opening awareness to look for that one, that you, who is thinking the thoughts. And rather than who am I, you can try, what is me? What is this self? And the answer is not going to take the form of a thought. The answer is to stay in this openness, to abide in the curiosity, to keep shifting from being identified with the thoughts, with being the thinker of the thoughts, into a ground of openness that's prior to the thoughts, prior to the impression of the thinker. So just ask, what is me? What is the self? Who am I? Whichever one of these resonates. And become curious about finding the answer in experience. And at the start I said we can think of this as being an orienting to an openness that exists prior to thought, prior to identity, an openness that is reality itself before we overlay our ideas on it. So you could also inquire, what is openness beyond thought? And look for it in your experience. What could I possibly be talking about? I'm pointing to something that's fully present in experience right now, but it's beyond thought. So any thought that arises can't be the answer. And its nature is openness. What is openness beyond thought? There may be one part of experience where you're afraid to look, for fear that you may unravel. For this time, the pointing is to look there, to let it all be okay, to let it unravel if it unravels, into this openness, this non-struggle, this perfect peacefulness that's always the case, whether it's realized or not. What is openness beyond thought? And again, when we notice that we're thinking, we feel like there's a thinker doing the thinking, trace back from the thought that you're identified with to look for the thinker. Opening up, becoming curious, and abiding in this curiosity. What is this me, this supposed thinker? How does it appear in experience? Is it even there at all? Or is there just a radical openness, expressing as these appearances, with no separations, no one knowing it, no problems? Who am I? What is this supposed me? What is openness beyond thought? And just returning to curiosity, to openness, aligning the mind with wider reality, from which it can actually never be misaligned. Always perfect, always now, always at peace, always here. Right, when you're ready, we can bring the practice to a close.